Hello star people, my name is Christopher, the AstroMedium, and your host intuitive astrologer for the cosmic forecast and energy update for the week of April 25th through May 1st. We're going to take a look at these energies day by day, and then we'll go back later in the video and we'll dissect some of these larger energy signatures at play so you can use these energies and not let them use you. Okay? So let's start with Mercury and Venus. So Mercury and Venus are joining forces this week. They are the stars and they deserve it. They're going to travel together and have some interesting conversations with some points and planets, and that will help you develop some more mentality, deeper conversations, and more transformative outlooks on life. Now, Lilith and Pluto are also in the mix, so be mindful that this week is going to be very heavy. It's going to be intense, kind of dark. Shadow aspects and deep psychological fears may surface for you, but it's all for the purpose of transformation and empowerment. There's also some shocking energy as Uranus is one of the stars this week, and also the sun. The sun is going to illuminate some themes for us, bring those themes out of the subconscious to the conscious mind so we can embody them and we can tell the ego to get the hell out of the way. We're driving this ship. Okay, let's start with Sunday, April 25th. The moon is going to make a quincunx to Venus and Mercury. Remember, the moon is an activator, so the moon is going to activate some larger energy signatures for us and set the mood and tone of the day. As the moon makes a quincunx to Venus and Mercury, which are in Taurus, the moon will then make a quincunx, which is a 150-degree angle, to Uranus in Taurus. That's also going to activate that Saturn-Uranus square, which is the largest energy signature at play here in 2021. The moon is also going to make a supportive, powerful trine to Saturn. That's also an activator that day, as this is the day that Mercury and Venus will form a conjunction. As they join forces, both of them will also square off with Saturn. So the moon on the same day is going to receive support from Saturn and some confusing conversations, and we can probably say some misunderstandings from Uranus, Mercury, and Venus. And this sets the tone for the week. So Mercury and Venus are going to travel together. So let's move to Monday, April 26th. The moon will enter Scorpio at 12:18 p.m. And this is really when the full moon energy is truly activated. And we are really feeling that around noon that day. So you will feel an intensity. You will feel a building of the energy. You're going to start feeling that full moon energy around Friday, the 23rd. So just be mindful that this energy is going to come in for you, and this is some heavy ass energy, okay? The moon is going to make a quincunx to Neptune. This is going to cause some confusion. The moon is also going to make a trine to Jupiter and Mars, filling us with a lot of passion, a lot of drive, a lot of confidence. However, the moon is going to make a tense square to Pluto. This is activating this full moon in Scorpio, and Pluto is going to be activated this week, as Pluto, remember, is one of the stars. So Mercury and Venus are going to make a sextile to Pallas on Monday. We're going to talk more about that here in a little bit. The sun is going to make a trine to Vesta. That is amazing. That's going to help with devotion, and with this Scorpio energy at play, we're already devoted to something and impassioned by something, but we get some healthy support from the sun to bring that up to our conscious mind in a healthy way. Now let's move to Tuesday, April 27th, early in the morning, because the full moon will happen at 11:32 p.m. Eastern Time. Early in the morning on Tuesday, the moon is going to form an opposition to Uranus, Venus, and Mercury. This is around and at the time of the full moon. So this full moon energy is going to be heavily activated, very electrically charged, but very constricted, as the moon is going to square Saturn. So this is important that day, as this will activate specifically the Saturn-Uranus square, which, like I said before, is the largest and most important energy signature astrologically, of 2021. The moon will also form a trine to Pallas and Neptune on the same day. So although shit's going to get pretty intense, things will get mystical and illuminated for us. And we're going to need this as Pluto goes retrograde. So we're going to go more into that later. Let's move to Wednesday, April 28th. On this day, the moon enters Sagittarius at 11:42 a.m. And then the moon is going to make a sextile to Pluto. So this is again going to activate that Pluto energy for us. The moon is going to make a square to Jupiter and a quincunx to Mars. So I'm going to say there's going to be some powerful transformations happening, but we're going to go through some being overzealous, pushing too hard, forcing things, and we may be a little quick to anger and frustration that day. So you want to be mindful about that. Now let's move to Thursday, April 29th. The moon is going to make a square to Pallas and Neptune. This is going to cause some confusion that day, some hypersensitivity. The moon is also going to form an opposition to the North Node. Again, more confusion, more feeling out of alignment. This is for a purpose. This is for a reason. The moon is also going to quincunx again, Uranus, Venus, Lilith, and Mercury. So expect some confusion that day, some hyperactivity, some hypersensitivity, responding to things too quickly. However, Mercury is going to form a sextile to Neptune and a conjunction to Lilith. So as he receives support from Neptune and he joins forces with Lilith, the mind is really boosted in its creativity, in its psychic abilities, and its ability to go deeper into subjects and not be afraid of talking about real shit, taboo things, trauma, things that have happened to us. Now let's move to Friday, April 30th. The moon is going to enter Capricorn, which she does not like Capricorn, but she's going to enter Capricorn at 12:16 p.m. The moon is then going to form a sextile to Jupiter and an opposition to Mars. This is going to switch that Wednesday energy up just a little bit. This is going to give us a boost of confidence. This is going to help us to think positively about things, positive outlook, feeling in a positive energy, pulling in more abundance for us. As the moon makes an opposition to Mars, you may try to use force to get what you want. You may find that you bump up against some challenges and that will cause a lot of frustration, reacting to things. The moon is then going to make a trine to Ceres, and then the sun is going to form a conjunction to Uranus. So as the sun and Uranus form that conjunction together, this is going to illuminate a lot of unique qualities about yourself. This is going to bring about some type of awakening to the ego, where you start to realize certain things about yourself that you didn't really realize before, or you didn't value before. You start to accept your more unique, innate eccentricities and abilities. Now let's finish off the week, Saturday, May 1st. The moon is going to make a quincunx to the North Node, like we need that anymore, so that's going to be more confusion. The moon is then going to make a sextile to Pallas. This is going to fill us with some creativity that day. The moon is going to make a trine to Uranus and Lilith. Be mindful, this is activating the larger energy signature that's happening that day, which is Venus forming her conjunction to Lilith. So Mercury has already made that conjunction to Lilith, and now Venus is doing the same thing. This is going to be very powerful for not only our relationships and our creativity, but our sense of self, how we take enjoyment in things, and self-acceptance. The moon is also going to make a square to Chiron. That is going to trigger some trauma coming to the surface, some insecurities, feeling weakened by something. So be mindful that day that we've got some mixed signals and that things might get a little intense. So, speaking of intensity, Scorpio energy is afoot. This is such a misunderstood sign. I really want to put the myths aside and the bullshit aside, and I want to say that Scorpio is one of my favorite signs. My Pluto is in Scorpio, so I'm going to be heavily activated by this Pluto retrograde and this full moon in Scorpio energy. If you have any fixed signs in your birth chart, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio, you will be heavily activated during this full moon, and it will cause a lot of tension. All full moons bring about tension, but this full moon will specifically activate you in a specific way. You also want to see where this moon falls in your birth chart, in which house it's transiting. So you want to find Scorpio in your natal chart, whether you're using whole sign or Placidus houses. Find Scorpio and find the house that corresponds or is sitting next to that. And that is the house, and that is the area of life that will be lit up for you during this full moon. So let's back up just a little bit, and I want to talk about Mercury and Venus. So Mercury and Venus don't make conjunctions. They don't join forces often. Sometimes they're so far apart they can make a sextile to each other. They're 2 signs away from each other. Now we are getting a blending of the processing mind and the heart brain. And now what do I mean by that? So Venus is how we relate to everything. It's the open-heartedness. It's how we pull energy in and we relate to material possessions, other people, our experience in sensual and pleasuring ways. Mercury is how you process things, how you mentally analyze and take in information, how you learn, how you communicate what you've learned. And Mercury also sets the pace of our day as it rules short-term travel, getting to work, saying hi to your coworkers, sending that text message. All of that information that's traveling is Mercury territory. So Mercury and Venus joining forces gives us an opportunity to blend 2 parts of ourselves. For some of you, this may feel challenging. For others, this may feel bright and exciting and illuminating, and you may feel a sense of pleasure and a positive outlook, as Venus is a benefic planet, allowing Mercury to not just analyze negative or positive, but starting to see the beauty in everything. So there's beauty that comes about when Mercury joins forces with Venus, as you can process everything and analyze everything in your experience with more of an aesthetic eye, more boosted creativity. You're going to be processing your experience and seeing more beauty in it. Now, on the same day, Mercury and Venus, as they've joined forces together here, they're going to form a 90-degree angle to Saturn. This is tense. So Saturn is a malefic planet like Pluto. So Saturn is the great disciplinarian, the lord of karma, cause and effect. So when Mercury makes a square to Saturn, there are negative thoughts. We're being very hard on ourselves. We're feeling like we are setting ourselves up for failure because our standards are so high. It's like we're seeing things and we're looking too realistically at it. We are setting long-term goals, but making them so far in the future they're unattainable. So squares make things challenging. The 2 energies are trying to dominate each other in a square, and they are starting to bring out more negative qualities of each other. Saturn can tend to do that anyway, as he can tend to pull out what is no longer needed, bring it to the chopping block for reevaluation. So there is a lot of analyzing that may happen that day. Although Mercury and Venus are together, as they form that square to Saturn, it tensifies things. Venus also in the mix. This helps. Venus is helping this conversation. She's bringing a little bit more beauty and pleasure into it, but this can also bring about some sense of loneliness, isolation. Squares to Saturn, especially from Mercury and Venus, can make you want to go at it alone. Your ideas you're coming up with, the communication that you're offering, it's usually more centered not just around yourself, but more about the projects that you're working on and getting from point A to point B and doing things the right way. Now, with Venus in the mix as well, this will affect relationships in a specific way, because you tend to start to isolate, you start to close down the heart a little bit, you start to put walls up. So be mindful if this energy is showing up for you. Use this energy as it gives you a chance to separate a little bit, focus more on you, what you want, and also there is some money stuff that will come up with Venus making a square to Saturn. There may be some investments that you've put into that don't go necessarily in the direction that you're looking for it to go. Business investments, creative projects may be a little bit harder to execute as you are not as in tune or in the flow. You're looking more at the realistic side of your art, trying to make it right or make it make sense. So there is some challenge, but this energy is also calling relationships to the chopping block. So we're going to be not only reevaluating our situation in our life, you are going to reevaluate relationships. This is a theme that comes up often because Venus moves so quickly through the zodiac. She has these conversations often with these different planets in different ways. This is a very tense conversation she's having with Saturn. So be mindful that you may start to see things within relationships, and there will be people or themes will pop up for you where you realize this is no longer working for me, it's not efficient, it's not benefiting me in some way. And Venus making that square to Saturn allows you to put a little wall up for your heart. So your empathy weakens a little bit, but that also allows you to see things more realistically, and your loved ones, your romantic partner, your friends, if they're not giving you what you need, kind of like a business transaction, if it's not fair, if it's not balanced, you may want to reconsider, reevaluate, and move forward from there. And you will also start to be thinking about, where are my relationships going in the long term? Now, this is really important because this energy is going to make us feel, again, a little bit lonely, a little bit isolated, but this is going to intensify as we move into the next day. Now, luckily, on the day of this full moon in Scorpio, which is Monday, April 26th, the full moon does not happen exactly until 11:32 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got a full day with a lot of different energies that are going to happen. The moon is going to make a trine to Jupiter and Mars, and that is going to make us feel super confident. Trines are 120-degree angles, but it boosts our confidence, our passion, our drive, and it makes us want to go after what we want. And there's a sense of fearlessness that can usually come from Moon making a trine to Mars and Jupiter. However, there are a lot of difficult conversations that the Moon is gearing up to have with other planets. And this is going to cause a lot of tension, will cause a lot of restriction, and make us feel very agitated, restless. Lots of anxiety will come up around this full moon, and for different reasons. Every time the Moon makes an opposition to the Sun, forming a full moon, this can cause a polarity to happen between something that you're consciously aware of and something that you're subconsciously needing or wanting from your experience, something that you're feeling, okay? This time the themes are the Sun is in Taurus, the Moon is in Scorpio. So the themes are stability, comfort, safety, security, focusing on that, driving our life toward that, relaxing. But underneath all that, there is a subconscious, emotional, innate, primal need to transform and to purge and to remove and release what is no longer serving us. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. On the day of this full moon, the moon will make a square, a tense 90-degree angle to Pluto. So Pluto is being heavily activated, as of course this is the day, just one day before Pluto goes retrograde. So it's almost like the full moon is opening the door for us into these themes of death and rebirth and transformation at a soul level. These are soul contracts we're talking about. If you have Pluto in a tense, an opposition, a conjunction, or a square to one of your natal planets, you're going to feel it. Pluto transits can be brutal, but they're absolutely transformative, and their effects are permanent through all of space and time. So they are needed and they're necessary. So this is a necessary moment, as there's been a lot of things that we have been bringing up to the surface. We've got a lot of our passion back. We're starting to bring all of our passions into more of a realistic focus. We're starting to set things into motion in realistic ways. We're taking proper precautions, saving more money. Things are moving in a better direction, it feels, but there's things brewing under the surface, okay? And this is that Scorpio energy that wants to keep things hidden, that wants to suppress things, that wants to be very private and secretive and mysterious, being ruled by Pluto. Pluto is I call it the Dark Lord, okay? Pluto is he who must not be named. He's like Lord Voldemort. So Pluto is the great destroyer. So there are things that are ready to be destroyed, because once we destroy what is no longer serving for you, we make room for the soul to grow and move into and expand into something new that it has never been before. So this full moon is going to be, yes, very transformative for you. But what is unearthed from the shadows here is very uncomfortable. There may be themes around control. Are you trying to control your life? Are you trying to have power over people? Because Pluto is a sense of power, and Scorpio wants to maintain that power. My natal moon is in Leo at 6 degrees, and this full moon happens in Scorpio at 7 degrees. So I am going to really feel this, because my moon is going to receive a square from the sun and the moon at the time of this full moon, which is really going to challenge me and bring some things up that need to purge. And I can already feel this energy building. I'm already preparing for it. I know what kind of shit I'm getting myself into, okay? But it's a little scary, right? What is unearthed from the surface here are deep psychological fears may come up, and the ego is going to get hit really hard by this as well. So there may be a lot of desires that you have that are laying dormant because there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of control, there's a lot of unevolved qualities in yourself that are not allowing that true creativity to come out and that true drive to move you towards your calling. And this is really going to help remove some of that. Some themes that are going to come up around abuse, control, power. These themes that come up for you are meant to move you into a more evolved state, but you have to actually go there. This full moon, from the way I'm feeling intuitively, is that it will move many people. Not everyone is affected by all of these transits the same way. My rising sign is in Cancer, so I'm very affected by moon phases. I can feel it viscerally in my body and in my energy field. But not everyone is affected in the same way. But for those of you who will be affected, it will kind of rip you open. Pluto and Scorpio energy, it's ruthless. So although the moon at the time of the full moon will not be in a square with Pluto, it did it beforehand, setting the stage for this full moon to occur. And this full moon blows us wide open, brings these subconscious fears out into the open for us to view, process, release, and let it die. Let it go. That's what this moon is all about. But there's change that's coming. This change is inevitable. The moon is going to then make an opposition to Uranus, Venus, and Mercury the next day. But Uranus is one of the stars of this full moon show. So this opposition from the moon to Uranus is going to cause some type of awakening. It will cause you to fill with this electrical energy that makes you feel a little bit bored, agitated, restless. You want things to change. You want things to change fast. You have these sudden impulses. However, at the exact same time, the moon is going to receive a square from Saturn. This is important because this is the planet of restriction. So you've got Uranus and Saturn, which are currently squaring each other, which is, like I said, the largest energy signature of this year. And that's very important to note because this full moon is specifically activating that larger energy signature. So let me talk a little bit about Saturn square Uranus, just for those of you tuning in and not really aware of that and what's going on this year. So every year we've got major astrological transits that will occur. 2020 was filled to the motherfucking brim with them. Okay. And there was way too many going on, but again, you saw the most epic year of our entire life. It was also the most epic year astrologically. So it was exactly as it was supposed to be. Now, as we moved into 2021, Saturn moved into Aquarius and formed a square to Uranus. And the two of them are going to travel through 2021 together, forming this square. Squares are tense and hard, but that doesn't mean that it's miserable, that we're being punished by the gods. It's tense and hard because squares are like lighting the seat on fire, and it makes you get up and it makes you move. It makes you adjust something. That discomfort calls for an adjustment. So Saturn is the planet of restriction, conservatism, the old ways, the past, structure, order. Uranus, he ain't about any of that, okay? Uranus is about progression, innovation, the future, the new ways of doing something, freeing yourself of those restrictions, liberating you from the limitations that Saturn has set. So what this means is that we're receiving these flashes of insight, these new genius ideas, these sudden impulses to make changes to our lives, and they're big. But with Saturn making that square, we're coming up against restrictions, limitations, challenges that are calling us to reevaluate these sudden impulses. Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? It's bringing up a lot of insecurities, a lot of doubts, a lot of being hard on ourselves, delays, a lot of our long-term goals we're wanting to move to really quickly. And Saturn is saying, whoa, you have a lot of impulses coming in, but which one's right for you? Pick one. Let's set a firm foundation. Let's lay the bricks down. Let's move in that direction slowly but surely. And let's do this the adult way and the mature way. So with that being said, this full moon is specifically activating that larger energy signature. So we've been feeling this whole year, all these impulses to make these changes, and they're coming up for all of us. And then we're also coming up against challenges, wanting to save more money, things we've had to spend money on that we we had to put more money out than we're getting back in right now, but it's for a greater purpose. We're thinking more about the long term, but we're still getting agitated. We're still getting a little restless, a little impatient. This is the theme of the whole year. So there's an acceptance that can come from that. Now, on the day of this full moon, Mercury and Venus are going to make a sextile, a 60-degree angle, which is supportive and beneficial. Sextiles are not automatically activated like a trine. They are positive and beneficial, but it's like sending a text message. Hey, I'm here if you need me. A trine is showing up at the door with flowers and chocolates and saying, I want to make your day feel better. Here I am, sweep you off your feet. Sextiles say, I'm here if you need me. Okay? And we do need this. So it's activated through some type of conscious or subconscious effort or moving in that direction. So Mercury and Venus again are together. Now what Pallas is all about. Pallas Athena is the asteroid that is responsible for our way of defending the weak. It is how we strategize and it's wisdom, how we move through challenges with more grace and ease. It's a masculine in a feminine sign, so it's got this kind of pansexual, non-binary energy to it. I love Pallas. It's also healing of the mind. So Mercury making a sextile to Pallas helps to rewire the brain and also is specifically responsible for you having boosted pattern recognition abilities. So you start to notice patterns in things. We're going to see an increase in synchronicities, which we've already started seeing in the spiritual and metaphysical communities. Even the normal people, the muggles, are seeing this shit and they're on my Instagram talking about it. So I can tell you that for a fact. People are getting ready to wake up. Kundalini is getting ready to rise for a lot of people. There's a lot of big shit happening. The sun is also going to make a trine to Vesta on the same day as this full moon. Vesta is our flame inside of ourselves. It's that fire that burns, that gets us devoted, that makes us want to put our energy into something. Kind of like Mars, but with a lot more purpose. Mars is very primal energy, instinctual, very masculine. Vesta is this feminine energy of devotion, not necessarily being loyal, but being very devoted to a cause. So this is what you need to devote yourself to is not other people, but to yourself, doing more shadow work. This full moon in Scorpio is all about deep psychological shadow work. It's scary shit. It's very dark down there, but you're going to come out more free and very different than you were before. I'm going to call this full moon in Scorpio the butterfly effect. You're going to go in, but the way you come out is completely different, and you come out more beautiful and with new abilities. So let's talk about Pluto a little bit. Pluto is deeply feared in the astrological communities. I do not prescribe to that medicine. I love Pluto. I think Pluto, just the archetypal Lord of the Underworld energy, it is so necessary for our consciousness to move through these transformative states at such a high rate. So this is really what Scorpio energy is all about, is that transformation. And Scorpio gets a bad rep, but there are different levels to Scorpio energy. For those of you who are not aware, Scorpio is anthropomorphized by the scorpion, but that's the first level of Scorpio energy. So the scorpion is on the ground here, hiding in the dirt and in the dark, retreating into the dark when it's afraid. The stinger's in the back, so you don't see it coming. That's why you got to be careful with that Scorpio energy, but that's the lowest, least evolved level of the Scorpio energy. Then, as the Scorpio moves through these different dark, transformative experiences, which it is supposed to move through as it is moved through that by that Plutonic energy, we then transform into the eagle. So the eagle is a higher state of consciousness within that Scorpio energy experience. The eagle flies high. It's majestic. It still stoops to a lower level to seek prey, but for survival only. It is free. it has a higher perspective, and it sees things differently now, and it has more freedom, and its will and its power is stronger and more geared in itself. It's more in control. Now, once that eagle goes through some dark transformative experiences, it comes out the dove, the symbol of the Holy Spirit. And true, highly evolved Scorpio energy is intuitive, connected to the body and connected to spirit. When Scorpio is at its highest octave, it knows that its true power is allowing and not force and control. And so we've got to understand that Scorpio gets such a bad rep, like Gemini, and there's no need for it. Stop. Know what you're talking about. And you're going to need to know what you're talking about when Pluto goes into retrograde, because these themes are going to come up for all of us. So retrogrades cause us to pull the energy from within rather than from out here. So there's going to be some deep inner transformation. But here's the thing. The Pluto retrograde, this happens every year pretty much around the same time. So we go through this every year. This isn't going to be felt the way that we would feel a Mercury, Venus, or Mars retrograde. So just know this happens, and this affects us on a collective level and a generational level. And Pluto represents unconscious energies. Where the sun is conscious, the moon is subconscious, Pluto brings things from the unconscious. So you may not even be aware that these things are happening. You might just not feel the same. You may not feel like yourself. You may experience a dark night of the soul. This would be if Pluto is specifically transiting or making an aspect to one of your natal planets. This is going to activate you specifically. One of the beautiful things about this week is, again, Mercury and Venus are together, but Mercury moves a little bit faster than Venus, so he's going to start having these conversations before her. The first conversation that he's going to have is with Neptune, and I love this because on the day that Mercury and Neptune form this sextile, a 60-degree angle, the moon is going to make a square to Neptune, which can cause hypersensitivity and paranoia and increase psychic abilities and vivid dreams, but you're not seeing them as clearly. You're not downloading it as purely as it's coming in. So there's confusion and illusion that's wrapped up with Neptune energy. However, when Mercury receives a sextile from Neptune, our psychic abilities are increased. Our clairvoyance, our clairaudience, our ability to transcend the limitations of our mind to go to some really creative, imaginative places. It's boosted. I love that energy. That'll be a good 3 or 4 days where your meditations are going to be more intense, your dreams are going to be more vivid, and your psychic abilities and your intuition is increased. Now, Mercury is also going to join forces with Lilith the same day. So let's talk about Lilith a little bit. If Venus had a baby with Uranus and Pluto, that would be Lilith. She's a strong, divine, feminine energy, but she's dark. She is not afraid to go to those sexual places, sexual liberation. She is all about independence, freeing yourself. Lilith was the first wife of Eve, and she didn't want to eat that apple, okay? This archetypal energy brings up themes of female empowerment, but also taking that divine feminine energy to some dark places and shadow work, okay? That theme of shadow work is very strong for us this week, and it's necessary that you do that. If you are experiencing some heavy ascension symptoms, or your shadow work involves some trauma release, or there are energies trying to come up that you don't feel that you can handle on your own, please reach out to a healer, a psychic, a medium, someone who can assist you in that, your therapist, but someone who can activate those energies and help you release those in a specific way. Now, as we finish off the week, this is going to bring up some themes in our relationships about not just female empowerment. This affects all of our males as well, but that divine feminine energy in all of us. Empowering that, not being afraid. There's some ruthlessness, but there's some fearlessness that comes about with that. So the themes of this week are fear. What are these fears telling you about yourself and your soul's journey? What are you trying to move through next? And you may be aware that these things are happening, but sometimes it is good that with this plutonic energy that it's unconscious. Because if the caterpillar knew that when it got into the cocoon, it would just turn into a big blob of goo before it reformed into a butterfly, it may not do that. That's scary. Can you imagine you're not yourself anymore? And that's what this Scorpio energy and this Pluto energy is trying to get you to do. It's trying to get you to build a very strong and secure 8th house cocoon around yourself, where you can go to die and be reborn like a phoenix. That's also another representation of Scorpio energy, is the phoenix, burning up into a pile of ashes and then being reborn again. Because as we know, death is not real. There's only transcendence and moving to a higher state of consciousness at all times. Evolution never stops. And Pluto is responsible for the deepest, most intense parts of your soul's journey through its evolutionary process. So, gosh, this shit is intense. I'm excited for it. I'm going to be heavily activated by this. I'm not going to feel good the whole time. That's okay. There is nothing wrong with being afraid of the dark, but at some point you will have to sit in it and allow it to do what it needs to do. Like and subscribe below so you can receive alerts when I release new videos. And if you would like to get in contact with me, if you have any questions for me, or you'd like to book a reading, please go to my website at www.christopherwithayMedium.com. Also, if you're not already following me on Instagram and TikTok, you absolutely should, at the@AstroMedium. Also, you can find me on, of course, here on YouTube. Also, you can find me on Facebook at the AstroMedium. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I will see you all next week for another cosmic forecast and energy update. Be there or be square.
Go to chapter.